I love science. It's been a passion of mine for several years, ever since I was first introduced to the idea of skeptical inquiry and the immense beauty and spectacle of the universe, and the fun in pursuing curiosity and discovery for their own sake. This interest has no doubt helped shape me into the person I am today, and is at the center of my outlook and philosophy in life. But there was a time when this burning zeal for science was almost snuffed out, where the love for knowledge that was kindled by one teacher was nearly extinguished by another. I want to share with you the story of these two teachers and how their approaches to education have significantly impacted my life, as well as the lessons I've learned from them since then. We'll call them Mr. W and Mr. G. Now, I remember my first class with Mr. W very well. It was the second day of my first week of high school, and I was still nervous and overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information being presented to me. I'd never experienced these fast-paced learning environments, complex topics, and countless textbook readings. But when I entered Mr. W's lab, things were different. He met us all at the front door and introduced himself, shaking our hands one by one as we entered, asking for our names, and then telling us to sit wherever we like, or even to look around for a bit at all the colourful and captivating posters littered across the walls. We didn't open our textbooks or even a notebook. He instead dimmed the lights and said we would watch a video. It was a segment from Carl Sagan's Cosmos, and the moment he turned it on, I was entranced. For the rest of that class and everyone that followed, Mr. W would get up and take us on a scientific journey. He didn't just relay facts and figures, but told stories, guided us through experiments, and taught us via hands-on experiences. He made science into an art form for expressing our curiosity. His tone was calm and reflected his passion for the subject. His use of space and body language made me feel at ease. The positive environment he fostered and his holistic approach to teaching and learning gave me the confidence to freely speak my mind and ask some very dumb questions. He never treated them as such, and would encourage us to keep asking. He didn't speak down to us or ever treat one student more favourably than another. We were all equally important participants in the learning process. The respect he showed us and the dignity with which we were treated made for a great learning environment, which was then enhanced by his use of transactional communication. The class was never a lecture, but a conversation where through careful deliberation and dialogue we would find the answers together. In contrast, senior science with Mr. G was anything but a positive environment. Instead of vibrant posters and intricate multimodal presentations, his lab was a cold, bland room where we were expected to learn by sitting silently whilst he recited the textbook and we copied lengthy and confusing chemical equations from the board. His teaching style was the epitome of the transmission mode of communication. Experiments were rarely performed and questions were discouraged as they disrupted the flow of lessons. I think that Mr. G's method of teaching represented a significant shift in our science education, as we transitioned from the excitement and thrilling nature of discovering things for the first time to developing a more technical and nuanced understanding of the subject matter. Science was no longer simple and fun, it was serious and complicated. Mr. G kept his distance, preferring to remain at the front of the lab behind his desk. We were organised into neat rows, with the highest achieving students at the front. He always had time for them and was happy to answer their questions, whilst the underperformers were seemingly treated with contempt, left to our own devices with little guidance or assistance. I remember vividly how he would bully some students under the guise of comedy and banter, and would do it to one boy in particular. At the end of school, he'd gone from a B-grade student to having failed the class, not because he wasn't intelligent, but because he was belittled and degraded to the point of giving up. Seeing an 18-year-old peer brought to tears was distressing to say the least. Where Mr. W had turned science into something beautiful, something to be in awe of, Mr. G killed all sense of wonder and made science into something I dreaded. I've since realised the incredible impact that educators can have on their students. If they do their job well, teachers can inspire students to pursue avenues of thought and career paths they never believed possible. They can raise a learner's consciousness and broaden their horizons by developing their sense of wonder and critical thinking skills. But it all depends on how they present themselves, how they present the information, and how they treat the students. Because if they don't do their job well, as was the case with Mr. G, they can destroy an individual's confidence, their self-image, and dissuade them from even attempting something new and some challenging subject matter. That's what almost happened to me. I believe that the role of a teacher is to inspire and assist students in achieving their full potential. This can be done by creating a safe and positive environment where students feel free to engage with new and challenging ideas, where they're respected and treated with the dignity they deserve. The teacher must not be a dictator, giving orders and doling out information with no regard as to whether or not the students actually understand. The teacher-student relationship must be built on mutual respect and understanding of one another, and communication should be clear and considerate. Mr. G is an example of how not to teach, and it's one that I intend to avoid following, and hope you too can learn from.